Hey guys, in this video I'm going to introduce you a theory in which Jon Snow is a legitimate son of Ned Stark and Ashara Dayne. Before I do so, keep it in mind that in order for this theory to happen, it would require the show to pull out the biggest twist we've yet seen. Lyanna and Rhaegar Targaryen's baby would have to turn out to be someone else, and the show would have to provide us a bit backstory regarding the Ned Stark and Ashara Dayne love story. Even though there are only 6 episodes left, one more twist has been promised to us, and taking into account that the Ned Stark plus Ashara Dayne equals Jon Snow theory holds quite a bit of clues, hints and proof, it's definitely not out of the realm of possibilities to happen. Lyanna and Rhaegar fell in love at the Great Tourney at Harrenhal, and according to this theory and according to many characters in the book series, they were not the only ones. Ned Stark and Ashara Dayne did too, and it resulted with the birth of Jon Snow. Lady Ashara Dayne was a lady of House Dayne and the sister of Sir Arthur Dayne, the Sword of the Morning. She was tall and had long hair and violet eyes. Ashara was an object of infatuation for many men, including Sir Barristan Selmy and Ned Stark. Ned Stark met Ashara at the Great Tourney at Harrenhal, where they shared the last dance of the celebration, and many characters seem to believe those two fell in love. According to Sir Barristan Selmy, one of the Starks betted her at the tournament and got her with a child. Before I continue, let me just remind you that during this tourney, Ned Stark was not pledged to anyone. It was his older brother Brandon that was betrothed to Catelyn Tully, so he did not break any vow. According to the entire Dayne family, Ashara and Ned Stark truly did fall in love at Harrenhal. Lady Ellaria Dayne, Ashara's younger sister, believes this. Lord Edric Dayne, also known as Ned, the current Lord of Starfall, Ashara, Ellaria and Sir Arthur's nephew, also believe this. In A Storm of Swords, he tells Arya about his family, about how his aunt Ashara committed suicide over her broken heart. He then hesitantly tells Arya that his aunt Ellaria told him that Ashara and Eddard fell in love at the Great Tourney at Harrenhal. Edric is surprised that Eddard Stark never spoke of her. So Ashara's sister and nephew believe that she and Ned fell in love at the tourney. Sadly, then the rebellion broke and Ned suddenly found himself to be the new Lord of Winterfell during the time of war. Following the showdown at the Tower of Joy, Eddard Stark traveled to Starfall to inform House Dayne of Sir Arthur's death and return his sword, Dawn. Ashara committed suicide by throwing herself from the top of the tallest tower in Starfall onto the cliff atop the sea. It was also known by many that she was pregnant before she killed herself. Ashara was suspected to be the mother of Jon Snow, and that her suicide was caused by the grief over the hand her alleged lover Eddard played in her brother's death. In the books, Catelyn Stark even asked if this rumor was true, and Eddard angrily told her to never ask him about Jon, that the boy was his blood and this was all she needed to know. Quoting, Ned would not speak of the matter, not so much as a word, but a castle has no secrets, and Catelyn hears her maids repeating tales they heard from the lips of her husband's soldiers. They whispered of Sir Arthur Dayne, the Sword of the Morning, deadliest of the 7 knights of Aerys' Kingsguard, and how their young lord had slain him in a single combat. And they told how afterward Ned had carried Sir Arthur's sword back to the beautiful young sister who awaited him in a castle called Starfall on the shores of the Summer Sea. The Lady Ashara Dayne, tall and fair with haunting violet eyes. It had taken her a fortnight to marshal her courage, but finally in bed one night, Catelyn asked her husband the truth of it, asked him to his face. That was the only time in all their years that Ned had ever frightened her. Never ask me about Jon, he said, cold as ice. He's my blood and that is all you need to know. And now I will learn where you heard that name, my lady. She had pledged to obey, she told him, and from that day on the whispering had stopped, and Ashara Dayne's name was never heard in Winterfell again. Ned basically shuts her down, asks where she heard Ashara's name and ensures that Ashara Dayne's name was never heard in Winterfell again. As I already said, after the tourney at Harrenhal, the two hadn't seen each other up until Ned Stark rode to Starfall to deliver Dawn to Arthur's sister Ashara Dayne. However, Ned in this theory then found out that their Harrenhal story resulted with a child, but both of them knew they could not be together. By the time Ned saw Ashara again, he was married and had killed her brother. All of this combined sealed an end to their relationship, leading Ashara to commit suicide over her broken heart. Again from Arya's conversation with Edric Dayne. Why did she jump in the sea though? She asked. Her heart was broken, Edric answered. Did someone break it? Arya asked. He hesitated. Perhaps it's not my place. Tell me, Arya insisted. He looked at her uncomfortably and said, My aunt Ellaria says Lady Ashara and your father fell in love at Harrenhal. Let's now take a look on how other characters beside the Daynes saw the relationship between Ashara and Ned Stark. Here's a conversation between Cersei Lannister and Ned. How dare you play the noble lord with me? What do you take me for? You're a bastard on your own, I've seen him. Who was the mother, I wonder? Some Dornish peasant you raped while her holdfast burned. A whore? Or was it the grieving sister, the Lady Ashara? She threw herself into the sea, I'm told. Why was that? For the brother you slew or the child you stole? Cersei Lannister to Eddard Stark. Let's see Sir Barristan's take on events at the tourney. In A Dance with Dragons, Sir Barristan Selmy remembers the Great Tourney at Harrenhal, quoting, She died never knowing that Sir Barristan had loved her. How could she? He was a knight of the Kingsguard sworn to celibacy. No good could have come from telling her his feelings. No good came from silence either. If I had unhorsed Rhaegar and crowned Ashara Queen of Love and Beauty, might she have looked to me instead of Stark? Barristan says she was dishonored by a Stark, but his version is biased due to the feelings he had for her. But Harwin gives us more neutral take when talking to Arya. Harwin is a member of the household guard of Lord Eddard Stark at Winterfell, and he did give us a better insight regarding the relationship between Ned and Ashara. Lady Ashara Dayne. It's an old tale, that one. I heard it once at Winterfell, when I was older than you are now. I doubt there's any truth to it, but if there is, what of it? When Ned met his Dornish lady Ashara, his brother Brandon was still alive, and it was him betrothed to Lady Catelyn, so there's no stain on your father's honor. There's not like attorney to make the blood run hot, so maybe some words were whispered in a tent of a night. Who can say? Words or kisses, maybe more, but where's harm in that? Spring had come, or so they thought, and neither one of them was pledged. Harwin to Arya Stark. Now let's take a look on an evidence that might be supporting part of a theory that claims that Ned and Ashara were married. We only see Ned lie when we know he's lying, and we know the exact nature of the lie. For example, it happens right before he was killed. He lies about committing treason and once more sacrifices his honor for the good of his family. What he says is important, so let's take a look on that scene. Let the High Septon and the Seven bear witness to the truth I say, states Ned. The point here is that Ned swears to the Seven that this lie was true. He doesn't swear on the old gods, the gods he worships. There's actually one other oath that Ned took to the Seven, his marriage vows to Catelyn. Eddard Stark married Catelyn in the Fate of the Seven-style wedding. One would think that the Lord of Winterfell would wed in the Godswood of Winterfell before the Weirwood Heart Tree, but he didn't, and the answer might be lying in a theory that he'd already married before the old gods when he married Ashara Dayne. Sir Barson Selmy states that Ashara turned to Stark, and more importantly, he states that Ashara was dishonored by a Stark at Harrenhal. Let's also take into account the fact that Robb also did firstly bed and then immediately after wed Talisa, and we've been told numerous times that Robb truly is his father's son. Could this be a hint that Ned might have slept with Ashara at Harrenhal and then immediately afterwards wed her? It's definitely not out of the realm of possibilities. For all of you wondering why would Ned even marry Catelyn if he had already married and loved Ashara, here's the answer. During the Robert's Rebellion, the rebels Robert Baratheon, Ned Stark, and Jon Arryn needed to secure the Tully allegiance, and Lord Hoster Tully insisted on marrying his daughters to Ned and Jon. Ned, who was in this theory already secretly married to Ashara, had to agree to marry Catelyn to secure the allegiance and to win the war. There might be one more hint supporting this theory. It's Jon's exceptional skill at arms. If Jon truly is Ned and Ashara's son, then it makes Sir Arthur Dayne Jon's uncle, which might be an explanation why Jon is such a skilled warrior. The show has made a huge deal regarding the Dayne's ancestral sword Dawn, which many suspect to be the Lightbringer that Jon will wield to defeat the Night King. However, the only way for the show to bring the sword back into play would be with this same theory. If Jon is Ashara's son, then he would have the right to hold the Sword of the Morning title. This title is bestowed upon the Knight of House Dayne who wields their family's ancestral sword. It's not hereditary, automatically passed down to the current head of House Dayne. Rather, the sword Dawn is only held by a member of House Dayne who is considered worthy of the honor, after displaying immense skill at swordsmanship, which Jon most certainly is. Now let's see if George R. R. Martin, the creator of this fictional universe, author of epic fantasy novels A Song of Ice and Fire, which was later adapted into the HBO series Game of Thrones, gave us any clue regarding this theory. The Danes are still going to play an important role in the future, George R. R. Martin stated. This leads us to another George R. R. Martin's confirmation regarding the Danes. You'll see more Danes in the future books, that's all I can say. This could either mean that we will learn more of the Danes that are already introduced in the story, or we will see some new characters. Could it be that there are Danes that we already know of but are not aware of them being Danes? Let's also point out the fact that George R. R. Martin confirmed himself George has worked out a whole family tree for House Dayne, and it will be published in the future books. This means that something huge is coming, as only the great houses get family trees worked out. A fact that George R. R. Martin is waiting for the right time to publish this one means that there will likely be a huge twist regarding the Dayne family. Could Ned Stark and Jon be placed in this family tree? We know that Ashara danced with Ned, we know that she was, as Sir Barristan calls it, dishonored by a Stark at Harrenhal, and we know that Ashara gave a birth to a child, but could that child be Jon Snow? And as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to subscribe to our channel, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.